on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight, welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
Well, as often as I do this, I think what a great day it is. And this is another special day because I get to hang out a little bit with my little brother from the same father. We're both God-fearing men, and we worked together. We served together in Ramstein. In fact, he was the one that orchestrated my retirement. I don't know that I thought that was a good thing, but maybe you were trying to get rid of me. Chief Master Sergeant retired Laten Tony Williams. Good to see you, little brother.
Good to see you, big brother.
You weren't trying to get rid of me, were you, back in that day?
Well, Colonel Sam Norman did offer me to replace you, so I was trying to get rid of you so I could get the job.
Yeah, and then you got it and you didn't want it.
No. Those shoes are too big for me.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but anyway, we had a good time while we were together, and then you kept on, and I went on to something else. So good to see you. I'm glad to see you. By the way, before I forget, and our listeners need to know that you've got a book that I helped you write and publish last year called "Who Is This?" Right? Isn't that the name of it?
Yes, sir. Who is this? And then the bottom part says, just a little boy from Jamaica who grew up in Port Salerno, Florida.
So you're a Floridian more or less, but a little bit of history in your background. So you're a services kind of guy. I noticed you're wearing your services gear, and you did that most of your career, right? And you served what, 25 years, 26 years?
28.
28, okay. And but mostly services, or was it all services? No, because you were a TI as well.
I did a TI job for a while, and later in my chiefly career, then Brigadier General Philip Breedlove, retired 4-star NATO commander, decided he wanted to move me from the support world to the ops world. So he made me the operations group chief at Aviano for about a year.
And that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. That was an eye-opening experience after spending 20 years in the support world to see the flying operations of the Air Force. Gives you a different perspective.
Yeah, indeed. And so 28 years of service. And how many were you chief? How many of those years?
Almost 10.
Okay. All right.
So the Air Force messed up and promoted me to chief at the 17th year mark. And then I had to prove myself after that.
Well, and I know some of your mentors, so I know you had some good people teaching you how to be a decent chief, which is what we want to talk about today. What does a decent chief, a good chief, an expert, an excellent chief do? Things have changed, Leighton, in the years that you and I served, and especially me. I'm a generation ahead of you, but things are a little bit different, and that's the purpose of the show. Maybe to share. I don't know that it's old school, but it's still school. Some of the foundational stuff that we were taught they're still good, they're still powerful. But if no one has taught you or no one has reminded you, because sometimes we just need a little reminder. Oh yeah, but I remember the Chief Gwaltney. He's one of my favorites, telling me that, and and then that way you can get back to the foundations, the good foundations that we had. Because things are different now, man. Boy, are they different.
Absolutely, Chief.
Do you get out to the bases at all anymore?
Probably 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes I'm on either Randolph or Fort Sam, or once in a while Lackland. So I still see our folks in uniform quite often.
And of course, as a TI, I'll tell you what, I don't know how you feel about this, but this still irks me, man. Again, things change, but I still want to go up to a young person. I don't care who, young or old, to tell them to take their stinking hands out of their pockets. It, It's okay, Layden. It's okay now, evidently, but it bugs the crap out of me, man. And I bet if, especially as a TI, you see that happening on base, and you think, "Uh-oh, what do I do? Do I go yell at him or not?"
Well, another one of your proteges, my identical twin brother, Chief Juan Lewis, the fired up chief, he always tells me when I go on base, "Hey, keep your head down. Keep your head down so you don't have a heart attack."
Yeah, I can see that happening. But what do you think, Chief? What a couple of things does a new chief in particular, a young chief, need to know that maybe didn't get it wasn't in the book? Well, although it is in the book because I wrote it.
Well, I was given this morning before we got on the Zoom call here, and I think credibility, integrity, those are courage to stand up and speak up when things are not right. You see some of these troops today, or airmen today, airmen with the big A, and you see how they look in uniform. And I know the standards have quite a bit, and sometimes the lines are someone is within standard, or if they're pushing the envelope. And someone has to have the courage to step up and not be full of whether they're going to be criticized for maybe stepping over the line with how they approach people. But someone has to say, "Excuse me, I think your hair might be a little bit too bulky." Those stringy hairstyles that some of them have now, that they're really pushing the standards. And someone has to step, "Hey, let me just double check that to make sure you're okay, you're within the guidelines." But it seems like quite often there's a fear of not wanting to be accused of discrimination, if you would, based on the culture of how we let the standards work today. And as a new chief, you can't be afraid of that. You got to go back to the chief's creed and have the courage to step up and address things when they're not. And I don't know if that's missing today. I just don't see it as often as we did back in our days. You see someone with their hair um, uh, pushing the standard. You tell them, "Hey, go get a haircut. You're too close," or "Hey, get your hands out your pockets." But now it's like there's a little hesitation for folks to step up to do that.
You're right, Chief. And for number one, though, and I'm not, I shouldn't generalize, but I'm going to generalize. I'm, I'm, I'm convinced that not everybody knows the regs anymore. There are so many, and it's like, to me anyway, they're so different. Obviously, they're so different that I don't know what is right anymore. I don't correct people a lot of times because I don't know if it's changed. Like the hands in your pockets.
Yeah.
I don't want to offend anybody. But having said that, the O word, a word, when you can do it in a way that you don't offend people.
Right.
I
Yeah.
remember when the reg was that you couldn't have your hands in your pockets. I often would go as, I mean, I taught at the Air Force Academy, the youngest, the brightest people in the world by definition, and I didn't want to offend them. Not that I was afraid of them or anything, but I just wanted to be professional with them. But I'd see them with their hands in their pockets, and I'd go up to them and I tell them, a person cannot climb the ladder of success with their hands in their pockets. And they died up as, "Oh, thank you, Chief." It's like it was a positive way of telling them to get their sticking hands out of their pockets. So
Yeah.
there's a way to do it respectfully and not be offensive, I think. But
Yeah.
again, I think first, Chief, you got to know the rules. You can't tell somebody this is the standard when you don't know the standard. And I'm not
Right.
sure, back in the day, now as an MTI, you knew the standard backwards and forwards. As a band guy and a PME instructor, I took it upon myself to know the rules, and I served as an additional duty first sergeant, so I knew what the rules were. That way, if I corrected them, I wasn't BSing with them. I was telling them, this is
Right.
what it's supposed to be, and you're missing it. And I always had an
Mhm.
explanation. You know, with the hands in their pockets. The last time I got that I can remember, I mentioned it to the cadets, and the way I did it, I put my hands in my pockets and I said, "Does this look professional?" And every one of them said, "No,
Yeah.
Chief, it doesn't." I said,
Oh.
"That's why we do it, because it doesn't look professional, and we're trying to be professional." And again, their eyes
Mhm.
lit up, and oh, now we get it. Uh, and I don't know. It's just different. It's just different. I noticed that you're not wearing your fro anymore like you used to on active duty.
This is the new look for 60-year-olds.
I wouldn't know.
You'll when you get there. Yeah. I think a lot of that with your own personal um, way for a lot of those young people at a certain stage in life, you kind of push up a little bit. I know I did when I was younger. The different hairstyles that they had back then, and it's the same thing today. It's just a different hairstyle, but you're absolutely correct. What the standard is in order to be able to correct it. That means you have to become. If this is your profession of arms, it comes with a whole lot of things that you need to know, and so you have to read and stay up to date on when things change. You can't just go about your daily business of just doing work or communicating. You have to stay educated, informed about what's new in order to um, make sure others are following the rules on what's new.
And more importantly, you have to follow them.
Absolutely, you have to be the example. You must be the example. Yeah.
I don't know that it's different, Chief, but we were brought up knowing that as Patton said, you're always on parade, that we were
Mm-hmm.
being looked at, and we did. I mean, you and Juan, Lou Lewis, and all of the folks that weren't even in a TI profession at that time, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody looked sharp because we all realized we're being looked at by those youngsters, and we want the youngsters to look at least as good as they can, and we have to be
Mm-hmm.
the role models because they are watching us. And I don't know, that you would think that everybody realizes that anymore, but I'm not sure. When I go on a base and I don't know. There used to be some AFSCs that we'd say, you can't count on them.
Yeah.
But everybody looks the same now to me in many ways.
Yeah. Not to stay on the negative because there's certainly a lot of positives to talk about. But I went through the gate at Randolph 2 days ago, and back when I was a young airman, the sharpest people on the base to me, the guy at the gate, the security forces, young airmen. But now you come through, they've got a beard. It doesn't look real neat. The uniform is not that sharp because if it's a different style of uniforms that we're wearing today, it can conceal a lot of things underneath that uniform. If you got a tummy or you're just not looking sharp, you can conceal it by wearing this uniform that most people wear today. But your professionalism of how you conduct yourself when dealing with people to the gate should be 100% professional. And I don't see that all the time. And you want to say something to these young folks, but you don't have time because there's cars behind you that, hey, hurry up and get out the way. But I wonder where the leadership being visible with those troops so they can see and adjust um, to make them the professionals that they want to be. Yeah, I don't think any of them. No one joins this great Air Force to be less than the best they can be. But you need some coaching and some mentoring, no matter what rank or what grade you are. Like when I first became a chief, I had you as an example. No, it doesn't matter at what point of career you're in. You still need an example for each of those levels of leadership that you get to, and it starts at the bottom.
And that's where you're going to start learning the foundation at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom, right?
Yes.
But still, the chiefs, the people at the top, have to be the ones that hold people. And I was going to say hold people accountable, but always the accountability number one is you.
Yes, yes,
Do
sir.
I look right? Do I look good? And you know, Chief, you can tell, man. And again at the Air Force Academy, I've worked with some officers that I could see from 50 feet away, and they were so sharp they would cut me from 50 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they were and those boys, youngsters, I would say that's who I want to follow. You know, because I don't know them, I've never met them, I just saw them, and they are the model of professionalism. That's who I want to follow. Now, it's always possible that I maybe not really, but at least the first impression is wow. That's wow.
Yeah, I know house looking mediocre or substandard. Every time I stepped out in a uniform, or not even in uniform, just like we are today, we don't just throw on something because we represent a whole lot more than just ourselves. We represent, I mean, this might sound kind of awkward, but we represent our families. We represent a great force. We represent all those people that have mentored us. We're the example for those that are following behind us. So you're absolutely right. If you set the example, others will follow.
In your experience, Chief, what examples, good examples, positive examples, did good chiefs do to help you become a better chief?
Well, I watched as a baby chief, particularly at Ramstein. We had, I think, 172 chiefs around the area, and had our command chief at the base level, Dave Pope, was a sharp looking example. Carried himself as a chief, not just because of his position, but he walked with a certain level of representing what a chief should look like. And then we had uh, like Rod McKinley, Chief Master on Air Force number 15, the way they would represent themselves. So there's plenty of examples that just they walk the walk. They didn't just talk the talk. Sometimes you don't need to say a word. You just how you behave yourself, how you carry yourself, how you speak to people. Um, when I say speak, people speak not only to those below you, but how you communicate with the bosses. As in one of your books that you wrote, how to communicate with the boss, and you observe and pay attention to those things.
Yeah.
And then when you're the one that's placed in those positions or similar positions, you have some examples of how to do what you need to do.
And like you said earlier, you got to have the chutzpah to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably told you several times in the past that when I made Chief Gwaltney, and I often mentioned that I don't know what if he had a first name. He was Chief Gwaltney, period. But he took me aside and he said, "Bob, if you want to be a chief, you got to be willing to get your butt chewed at least once a week."
Mm-hmm.
And at first I didn't understand. Pretty quickly though I did, and that meant that, like as you were referring to earlier, you got to be willing and doing the correcting of the younger folks, but the boss too. Not in the sense, and again, there's a right way and a wrong way. I wrote a book on that, but you can't let your boss fail. You
No.
have to go in there and as a chief and tell him or her, boss, this is wrong, this is bad, whatever, and be willing to take. I don't know many people who take negative feedback, I guess is what the term, well, because it doesn't feel good. But
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, you got to be willing to do that with the boss so that he or she doesn't fail miserably and go to jail. And again, some of the things that the commander used to be able to do back in my day, the chief, even before you were in, now would land you in jail.
Mm-hmm.
and then you got to be the person that goes in and says, boss, you can't do that because it'll land you in jail, and it's not an easy discussion to have. But as a chief, you got to have it, not just with the young troops, but also with the boss
Yeah.
and the staff and everybody. Because even the staff, I always say that whenever a commander has been fired, at least 50% of the reason was because of the staff. They didn't do what they should have done to protect him or her. So, um, I don't know that we tell anybody that anymore. But if you young chiefs are listening, we just told you.
we just told you. Yeah, you also have to learn um, things that's out of your norm. For example, if you can become a senior leader to senior officers, you have to learn their circle of how things operate for them also in order to advise them on certain things. Um, I remember my last boss, now the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, when I served as his command chief when he was a one-star. And, they come out of this fighter pilot mentality world, and they don't quite understand, as not taking anything away from them, but you understand leadership of people a little bit more than they probably do. They know how to lead an airplane up in the sky. But for their future development and promotion, sometimes they can and will say things that may not be in line with things that are politically correct, that could be jeopardizing their future promotions. Because when you get nominated for your first, second, third, or four-star high-level positions, you have to be nominated, and then you have to get approved by the Senate. And sometimes those senators, when they want to have certain things for their states, they will pick and hold up promotions, getting approved from going forward. And if you have something, any little thing that could be looked at as something they could be critical of, you have to be thinking way ahead. And sometimes, as the senior enlisted advisor, I know you have the word enlisted, but you're not just the command chief for the enlisted force. You're the command chief for the whole base. Or if you're the chief master sergeant of the Air Force, you're not chief master sergeant of the enlisted force of the Air Force. You're chief master sergeant of the Air Force. And so you have to learn those things in order to be good at what you do, to be willing to tell your bosses what you're thinking. I remember another boss, General Rowdy Yates. One time I went in his office to tell him something that was going on around the base, and he told me, frankly, he didn't you know what, as long as the job gets done. And then he called me back in the office when I was leaving, and he said, "Have a seat, Chief." He said, "What you just now, I don't want you to stop doing that." He said, "Because most people are going to try to tell me what they think I want to hear, including the other senior officers. You here and told me what I need to hear, and don't stop doing that for me."
And I'll tell you, and I know you've had the same experience, Chief, that every senior officer that I worked for within, the first few minutes of our introduction told me that you take care of me, stop me from doing it, don't let me fail, do whatever you got to do. So, and I think, at least in my experience, all of those that said that were being honest about it. They were being serious about it, and again, but again, it's not easy. It's like telling your wife you don't want to go have lunch where she wants.
Yeah, that's not good leadership.
You're going to be following a lot more when that happens. So, well, I gotta. We're running out of time, so let me thank you not just for being on the show, but for doing all the stuff that you've done, because you've got a huge, uh, uh, huge resume, and a lot of it is in your book, the Who Is This, and available on Amazon. Yeah, okay, I'm pitching the book, but anyway, it's a good book, a lot of good stories and all. But and I know you've been around a long while, and you're still serving. It's funny. Maybe I shouldn't say this to young chiefs, especially the ones that are going to retire fairly quickly. You don't stop serving.
No.
I don't know any chief that's not still a chief and doing stuff for people, as we learned. That old saying about once a chief, always a chief. I think that's true. The real chiefs are out there still, and they're not flaunting their rank or anything, but they're doing what they learned to do as a chief, and that's basically just take care of people.
Yes, sir.
Below you, above you, around you, within you, all of those things. So anyway, you especially you new chiefs learn from the old guys that this is what we were taught to do. Probably a good thing to do. And I venture to say, Chief, that we need this. We need to. What is that? Return to the Future, or whatever that movie was. Back to the Future, because we're missing some of that foundational stuff. But we can get back to it, and now's the time. And each of us has to do it.
Yes. I agree.
Now you take care of yourself. I know you're getting older. I can tell you got no hair, but take care of yourself, and I hope to see you every once in a while.
Oh yes, sir. I'll close with this. The saying goes that God only made so many perfect heads, and the rest He covered up with hair.
Man, I think that's enough. Okay, stop it.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, Chief. Well, thank you so much, man. God bless you.
God bless you all.